Hello, it's George, Phat Foodforest. I'm in the wormery. I often say compost worm systems. This is a new simple one I built, a small one. You can even use this under your sink or inside your kitchen or just outside your door. I've used it for years. I've used one like it for 14 years now. I stopped using it about a year ago. I use a 27-gallon one like this. I just built this one. I'm going to be selling this at the farmer's market here in East Asheville tomorrow. But I thought I'd show others how to do it. If you wanted to buy worms from us, or I suggest buying a complete starter system, we'll talk about that. And you could build something like this for yourself. Any slide-in vessel, any vessel that slides into the other vessel, stacking containers like that. So I have the two lids. There's no holes inside the area for that. These, I simply drill holes in the entire bottom, flip it upside down using a 1/4-inch drill. Approximately every 3 inches, I drill holes. That goes through both containers. I also do it on the side, about 1/3 of the way up. Come closer so you can see. And that allows the worms, as you're composting in the bottom container, when you fill it up to the point that you start seeing the holes and you know it's time to harvest the worms, to feed in the top container. By doing that, the worms are going to finish up the food source in the bottom, sense the food in the top, and harvest themselves. It makes it a very easy way to harvest your worm castings, remove them. You've started feeding here, harvest these, use them whatever way you're going to, replace this back in here, and start the process over again, repeating, starting feeding the top when need be. Does that make sense? So when your castings are ready, replace it. The 27-gallon ones I used lasted months before I had to do that. I'm guessing this will be about a month. Again, that lid's solid. So anything that did go through there, that's called a leachate in the bottom, will be caught. Word to the wise, if you're getting leachate, your system's too wet. It shouldn't be that wet. You shouldn't get any leachate out of there. That leachate's going to be anaerobic. If you're going to use it, make sure to dilute it with a bunch of water. You don't want to promote any of the bad guys in there. It needs to have oxygen. It needs to be oxygenated. The lid snaps on. That allows, even when we're just using this for the top, whichever bin it's in, to keep the rain and the flies out of there. So again, these are very simple systems. Any two slide-in vessels, drill holes 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up, and alternating top to bottom, bottom for top. Now we'll talk about how you get one of these systems started. You can simply buy red wigglers for someone like me. Put a 1/2 pound, 1/4 pound of red wigglers in there. Shred a bunch of cardboard up. That cardboard is going to be your carbon source. Take that, put it in a bucket and soak it. Get it very moist. You don't have to wring it out, but just take it out of there and drain the water. Put that in as the bedding. Your first 4 feedings, you'd want to do in alternating corners, promoting the worms to find their way across the system to find that food, putting as much of it through their system, leaving what they need to, the bacteria around them, the slime around them, to inoculate the whole system. When I'd feed a system to start like that, in a corner, I'd pull some of the cardboard back, the carbon, and put the food in, the nitrogen, and cover it back up. We don't want any smell. If there's a smell, there's not enough carbon, more cardboard. So again, do that same thing in all 4 corners. After that, we just feed in layers. A layer of food scraps, a layer of carbon to cover it. 50-50 or even 2/3, a little more carbon. You want to make sure to suppress that smell. As the worms eat it and it's composted, it's going to keep getting smaller and smaller, so it lasts quite a while. So that would be a way if you didn't have access to someone that had one of these breeder systems for sale. Captain Matt on YouTube introduced me to this. It's a great way for me to use I have a breeder system here. I'm going to keep this short. These worms breed every 3 weeks. These eggs have a chance of hatching. So before that hatch, I put these into a larger bin and keep the composting system going. During that time, there's going to be a ton of cocoons in here and our healthiest worms. So what we do with a system like this, I'll go over costs in a moment, the different size, different costs, is we start you off with the bedding and the worms that are here already. This bedding is going to inoculate your bedding. It's going to be right full of these red wigglers, these gorgeous red wigglers. there's also a ton of these cocoons. You see these cocoons all over in there. So you don't have to start with your carbon source. You just put the starter material in here with the compost, the red wigglers, and the cocoons in there. Start feeding it and cover it with a carbon source. And then start that process. They'll crawl out of the castings that you have, and you'll just begin that whole system. As far as the carbon source, another way of doing it is with compost. If you have a thermophilic compost or old piles of piled debris out back that is broken down material from your garden, you can use that. The worms will feed on that. Any organic matter they'll eat. So they'll eat 100% of your kitchen scraps, short of meat and cheese. They're capable of that, but you're asking to get maggots and flies and other problems in there as well. Other pathogens. These videos get very long because I digress and lose train of thought. So that's the system. That's how you do it. You can start your own with just the carbon in there, feeding all four corners and beginning it. We promote buying something from us like this. You can make your own bin system like this. Buy a starter bin from us. The starter bin is going to consist of 500 worms. We don't want to crowd them in here because we want them to be breeding. Because we've done that, like I showed, there's a ton of those cocoons in there. There's going to be approximately 1,000 cocoons in there. Each of those cocoons is going to have approximately 4 worms in there. It could be up to 7. On average, 4 worms. What that's going to do is going to allow that system to very mature over the next 3 months, going from the 500 worms that we have in here. Is that what I said first? I said 1,000. I meant 500 worms. So there's 500 worms in here, 1,000 cocoons, and 2 gallons of this bedding. The bedding itself is going to have that soil food web in it. The soil food web consisting of the bacteria, the fungi, the protozoa, the nematodes, the microarthropods. That is that soil food web. They are the decomposers, the shredders. That's how the magic happens. And that makes it consumable for the worms. So I guess we should go over costs now. We're going to have these 5-gallon systems available with 250 worms, a gallon of castings in them, and that's going to be about 500 cocoons in it. That'll be $65. That'll be $50. We sell these starter packages. You build your own system. You buy this from us. This has 2 gallons of castings in it, 500 worms, and 1,000 cocoons. We sell worms by the pound, 1,000 worms, about a pound of worms, about 1,000 worms is going to be $50. On down through, broken down, half pound, quarter pound, 25, 12, 50. And we sell castings, saving the best for last. The castings themselves, we sell in a 2-quart for $15, a 1 gallon for $25, and a 5 gallons for $50. I've showed quite a bit of time, quite often, the pictures of just how incredible it is to look under a microscope and just how full of that soil food web it is, how much life there is in these castings, even compared to the compost and definitely compared to your yard soil or your garden soil. So the ways we use this is we top dress our garden beds, we top dress our house plants, our potted plants. We mix it into new soils that we're building. My favorite way is to make compost teas out of it. And of that, the favorite way to do is a compost extract. I'll make a video on that, a very simple way of putting in a bag and massaging it out, getting all those good guys into that water. But I think I've covered it. We've covered cost. I'm George. This is Phat Ninja Foodforest. We do classes, tours in the worm systems. Change is better than a holiday. Thank you very much. Leave questions and comments.